Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Welcome to Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and tonight we are going to be talking about an upcoming conference called the Dyslexic Edge. It is the first conference of its kind taking place at George Mason University on March the 23rd. Joining me to discuss this conference, brand new conference, is Krista Gauthier, who is the founder and executive director of Sliding Doors, and Tracy Mason, who is the assistant dean of George Mason University's College of Science. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you,
Thanks
Catherine.
for having us.
So this is a very exciting conference, and this is the first year. So give us a little bit of background, Krista, on where the genesis of this idea came from.
Sure. So like most great ideas, it came from an introduction and a whiteboard session. But one of our, Sliding Doors, one of our main missions is to change the conversation about dyslexia education. And a big part of that is to really unite different resources with the understanding that people with dyslexia tend to really excel in STEM fields. And through a mutual friend and someone who serves on the board of directors at the College of Science, who has always supported our mission, he introduced me to Tracy, and we just started talking. And we had a lot of different ideas about how we could collaborate and really change the way we think about people with dyslexia and to create a pipeline, into the STEM fields. And we came up with this conference. It's, like you said, it's the first of its kind. Part of the reason is that we're uniting not only people who are experts in the field of dyslexia, but also in STEM fields as well, and trying to really get these people talking and collaborating about how we can really help people with dyslexia reach their full potential.
So Tracy, what kind of tracks do you have? Who should plan on coming to this conference?
Well, it depends on what you want to get from the conference. If you want to learn more about dyslexia in general, if you're a company or an organization that would like to work with people within that community, you should attend. Obviously, families and people affected by dyslexia will want to come because they can learn about the different scientific opportunities people with dyslexia have. And then finally, we're also interested in helping teachers because we've learned Mason is one of the best suppliers of teachers in this area. We train across the scientific fields, and yet we're learning that not everybody knows a lot about dyslexia. And so you can learn more about the condition, you can learn more about the curriculum modifications you might need in the classroom to help people with dyslexia succeed. And then we're trying to build these partnerships within the community so that people are empowered to take these STEM paths or the trajectories that Krista's talking about and use them for their own personal success or for their company or organization.
So dyslexia is rumored to be something that affects 1 in 5 students, and you got involved obviously because your daughter was diagnosed
Correct.
with dyslexia.
Correct.
But how often are students appropriately diagnosed early?
Right.
So they're
Okay.
on the right path.
So that's a very good question. And it's actually one of the things that we're going to try to change with this conference, is that it's very unusual that students, the key word you said there was early. So I had one answer, as you were talking, but when you said early, it kind of changed the question, because unfortunately, I think a lot of people still wait and operate under that waiting to fail model, and a lot of parents especially get frustrated because they're told continually, oh, they'll outgrow it, we don't know if something's wrong. And really there are ways to diagnose at a very young age. And the sooner you diagnose, the quicker they can get intervention, which is critical. Because one of the things they have found is that for every year you wait, it exponentially goes up the amount of time you need for intervention. So if a first grader is receiving intervention, they need maybe 30 minutes every day. If you wait all the way to 4th grade, they need 3 hours a day. Right, so that early detection becomes critical, for sure.
And so, as far as training teachers, Tracy, if teachers have not been taught in their curriculum, and we've got teachers, newer teachers and veteran teachers, if they haven't been taught what to look for or how to screen, is teaching teachers how to look for the signs or to administer a screening test, is that part of what you hope to do?
I learned that the time to do a screening test is quite extensive. So we're not actually going to be having the screening tests at the conference, but we want to make sure that the teachers understand what to look for,
Right.
certain signals that a student might be able to convey that leads the teacher to believe that there might be a need for intervention. The flip side is, once this isn't just for the early diagnosis. What we want to make sure people understand is that there's a connection between people that have dyslexia and some of the scientific fields that give them opportunities. So it's not just making sure we identify dyslexia, it's giving people pathways and opportunities forward, and they're centered in science because of their unique way of thinking. So we're focusing on the challenges that people with dyslexia face and helping them get the diagnosis and the resources they need. Teachers making sure they know what the signs may be, but also saying, hey, once we've navigated that path and interventions in place, these are the opportunities you have. And that was really the most exciting thing for me. When you look at someone that has special needs or challenges, it's very easy to focus on the things you can't do. What Krista and I talked about were the things you can do. And there's a need for STEM savvy individuals in the workforce, not just here in Northern Virginia, but everywhere. And so if Mason can play a role to help people see that path forward, we're all for it.
Yeah, Krista and I have talked before about, elementary school workforce development. Right. And the fact that there's more data, and I think there's better data now about clusters of people in certain industries, whether it's engineering, and we can see it in universities, the number or the percentage of students with dyslexia who are drawn to things like information systems, technology, or engineering, or those kinds of fields. So getting someone who's got an aptitude, and again, it's strength-focused inclusion. That's what my friend Rachna Heiser calls it. Rachna says that, to your point, don't look at just remediation. We just have to remediate. What does someone do well? And how do you develop, build on, motivate, inspire around that strength? And that's exactly what both of you are talking about here, is identifying what needs to be resolved as far as reading, but then understanding that this little person might have a natural aptitude and passion for engineering or a related scientific field. Right. So hopefully, is part of this conference helping parents to see the possibilities more clearly?
Absolutely, and it's really for everybody to see those possibilities, because one of the things that we're going to do at this conference is, or one of the things we've seen as an organization is by introducing parents and students to the potential through speakers who are mechanical engineers who have dyslexia or other professionals. It shows them that pathway, and in doing so, these kids just thrive, and their confidence just becomes just really increases, because it's not only just that they see where they're going, they're seeing all the people that believe in them too, right? So partnerships like the one with George Mason and other partners that we'll bring into the conference and to other initiatives, it shows these kids just how many people believe that they are the future. And I think that's critical.
I think so as well. And I love the fact, since I'm a Mason alumna, the fact that the campus is opening up to this conference. I'm very excited. I live down the street. The fact that you've got all of these people coming to the George Mason campus and understanding how to interact with the College of Science in a way maybe that wasn't obvious up to this point, because their children are very young.
Right. Well, and STEM outreach is a very important focus for Mason and our college, obviously, for the science, technology, engineering, and math. We've got 3 out of the 4 within our disciplines, and work very closely with the engineering school. When we have opportunities to do what we call hands-on experiential learning, where the kids can actually come and look at a dinosaur egg. The first person to discover a dinosaur embryo, the paleontologist, had dyslexia. Wow. And basically the approach that he took to doing it was, I saw the egg and saw a hammer and said, hey, what's inside? So it's that problem-solving ability that scientists have, and their ability to look spatially beyond what they see, which actually has great value in our physics and astronomy group in the College of Science, our geospatial, geography and geoinformation systems, very popular path, and anything in robotics and connecting. I was talking to a friend of mine whose son has dyslexia, and she said, he's really into coding right now. This is his thing. And I said, nourish that. Keep them doing it, because the confidence they have in being able to find things that they can relate to or they can make an impact in is part of what we want this conference to do, which is going to spark that interest in STEM.
And you do something called Science Saturdays in your Sliding Doors program, and you know, I wish that was something where more children had more opportunity, but you take them all kinds of places where they can see, you know, there's a saying that you can't be what you can't see.
Right.
But you take these kids all kinds of places, the Naval Laboratory and all kinds of places where they meet people who are like, well, I'm dyslexic too.
Right. Right. And that's a big moment for these kids, for sure. Because actually even parents, I mean, you mentioned Carter Rock Naval Lab, and one of their engineers who has dyslexia spoke with the children and then the parents, and I looked around the room at one point and saw a number of our parents choked up, and I think it's like for them it gave them that hope, and that they're like, we already know our kid's exceptional, right, but now they're seeing it, right, and that's just a major moment for our families.
And I can't wait for the data collection to be more accurate than it probably is right now, because so many people can go a long way without ever being diagnosed, right? And so how do we know exactly how many adults have dyslexia, how many college students are finding out or maybe not finding out that they have it, for us to really understand clusters of students with this particular gift, and why they're drawn to the sciences. I mean, do you anticipate better data and being able to see patterns at some future point, Tracy?
Ideally, yes. So our intent is to have both this conference, as we develop the community around Mason and around the dyslexia condition, to help people understand what they're capable of, collect data at these camps and conferences, and with different exposure to scientific opportunities. We'll get a better feel for where the aptitude lies and what people have an interest in, because it's really both. It's not just what they're good at, it's what they want to do. It's the same for any young person looking at their future. They have to look at what skill sets they're good at, and they have to look at where they can convey those skills in a way that moves a business, an organization, a government entity forward. And so we're going to keep trying new things and see what works. But we're also, the College of Science will be partnering with the College of Education in this initiative. So we're also looking to collect data from the teachers that are in the schools working on their IEPs and, you know, everything that needs to be done on the day-to-day once the diagnosis exists, to be able to get a feel for what's working. So there'll be tools and a lot of research to come.
Well, when we come back, that's one of the things I really want to talk about is the development of curriculum in the College of Science, and how you are helping teachers to understand how to develop effective curriculum, because I think that is something that you have focused a lot of attention on in the very recent. So please join us after the break when we will be talking about the Dyslexic Edge.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. Already posted it.
I got a crick in my neck, limp in my step, cramping in my muscles every time I try to flex. All of the ones scared of, it's very sad when I love. All that I could do was remember you. You know I usually say no, but if you throw me love, I'll throw you some more.
It's a big responsibility.
Oh, it's huge. I know, it's huge.
And the salary.
Oh my god, yes. I mean,
Right?
like, I was about to move in with my parents, and right before, so this saved me.
I really believe in you, you know?
Thank you. It's nice to hear that from someone.
These are cool. Did you
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and tonight we're talking about a new conference that's going to be held at George Mason University in March called the Dyslexic Edge. One of the people who is very instrumental in this conference is Tracy Mason, who is the Assistant Dean of the College of Science for the university. Thank you so much for being here, Tracy.
Hi, Catherine. Thanks for having me.
So you're the Assistant Dean. You connected with Krista and then started kind of building out this conference. What are some of the things that really prompted you to start developing the different tracks?
Well, the dean of our college really values forward thinking around STEM fields and building what she calls success without limits initiatives. So Mason has a very strong accessibility element of our strategic plan and our vision that we want education to be accessible for all people, all walks, all abilities. And when we had a chance to talk a little bit about how many people are affected by dyslexia and their interest in science, it was a natural fit for us to say, how can we help? What can we do? So we looked at the first of all, the physical plan. We need to get people together to talk about this. Mason has a very large campus here in Fairfax, Virginia.
Right.
We're the largest state university in Virginia with 37,000 students. 4,000 of them are College of Science students. So
wow.
We can leverage our student population to help teach these young up-and-coming students a little bit about science. So we started with that and then said, well, what types of things do we want them to learn? And we branched from the families who are affected by dyslexia to the teachers who are working in the schools trying to help diagnose it, help people learn, and create these pathways really of learning, Catherine, that allow the students to say, this is what I'm good at, and I could go do anything.
Right.
So it's just really fun to see how it's coming together. Krista and Sliding Doors has been an amazing partner for us. I have to thank a member of our board of directors, actually. We look to our advisory boards to help us connect in the community and find ways where Mason can really show its impact, and this one is a no-brainer for us. It's a perfect fit for everybody.
You know, and I think that's great because I'm a natural connector and I have a tendency to connect people together, so I appreciate when somebody sees the potential of bringing two people together who have some sort of mutual interest or goal. And this has been, to me, an excellent platform for helping to raise up the importance, as we mentioned before, of strength-focused inclusion. When you're in elementary school, you're not necessarily being introduced very early with things like the sciences. Really, the basic, you're trying to learn your ABCs and to read. So what's glaring when you're very young is the fact that you can't do these things over here. Like
Right.
I cannot do the basic skills thing, even though you may have a phenomenal aptitude for the sciences, which are generally not introduced until later on.
Right.
So helping teachers to understand that they might be working with an incredibly bright child who, you know, how are you going to suggest that teachers try to incorporate something different into the curriculum of very young children, like elementary school aged?
Well, actually, some of the research shows that people will develop an interest in biology at a very early age, 5, 6, or 7. So some of it is just hands-on learning rather than focusing on reading and writing. It's what we call experiential learning, where you'll create things, you'll problem solve in a way that's just hands-on and involved, as opposed to focusing on the reading and writing or typing, which is happening now.
You know, one of the trends that I have seen, it's not everywhere, but is makerspace. And the librarians who have gotten involved in creating makerspace, sometimes in libraries of their schools, where it's exactly what you're talking about. They give the kids basic materials, paper tubes, and they can make things, or they can solve a problem, or they can experiment in trying to make something work. But I don't know that that is being largely embraced by schools everywhere. I mean, do you see that as an up-and-coming trend?
We do. Actually, Mason has the Mason Innovation Exchange, which is a maker space on our campus. And so this isn't just something that's happening at the elementary school level, it goes all the way through college. Helping foster innovation is critically important for any learner at any age, where they feel that they can be creative, where they can take the curiosity that most scientists have and run with it. What do they want to make? What problems do they want to solve? Getting them thinking that way, it's problem-solving thinking as opposed to just giving them a question and an answer. So I think some of that is the teacher methodology that you were talking about before, but the maker programs with hands-on learning, experiential learning, we've found as a trend at Mason that actually makes our graduates more prepared and more creative and more innovative as they go into the workplace.
So Sliding Doors is an after-school program, and because there are a lot of demands on the curriculum and the number of hours that of instruction time that students have, what are some of the solutions for how to introduce some of these things into a public education environment if you're limited by the number of instructional hours and what you have to teach?
Well, as a parent with 2 children here in the Fairfax County School District, I know the teachers at our school work really hard to create fun learning environments for their kids. There are certain things they're required to teach them, but the way they teach them sometimes is up to the creativity and opportunities the teacher presents. So, and the principals and the leaderships at that school can reinforce it. Whether they have in the classroom, or they have coding club after school, or they have even something like chess club where you're thinking ahead and solving problems, or a math club, or a gardening club.
Really?
And this is all just happening at my
Wow,
local elementary
okay.
school. So I think a lot of it falls on the teachers to be creative. It also is an opportunity for parents to really look at ways that they can identify what their children care about. There's a lot happening over the summer. Part of the reason we're having this activity in the spring is that it gives people a chance before they plan all of their summer to look at some of the great camps that, for example, George Mason University offers, and everything from drama and science and engineering to hopefully a camp for dyslexia, if we've got the right foundation in place and the partners that can help support it.
That is an exciting idea. It really is. I mean, my kids are grown. They're like all in their 30s now, so it's been a long time for me. But, those things didn't really exist. Camp was like horseback riding and archery.
Right.
It was not what you're describing. Fairfax County is very blessed with a lot of resources, and we have a lot of parents who are very educated here. And so the fact that we have a major university sitting right in the middle really does give me hope that we can develop things that are kind of a model, and I describe a little bit about what you hope to do within the College of Science to create models. I mean, we talked about the fact that creating curriculum is something that you're doing within. I would not have thought about that as far as the College of Science, but what are some of the other models you hope to create so it's not just Fairfax County, it's not just George Mason?
Well, 2 things have to happen. People have to first have a good understanding of what dyslexia is. So we're not starting by building something without building the awareness and the knowledge around identifying the condition and looking at what's currently in place on the legislative side and also the curriculum side. Then once we have a better feel for how to help people with the condition, that's some of the data we're going to collect. The main thing really is to just get out of the way and let them learn. And so identifying pathways where people with this condition can go and grow and learn, and then finding partners at the end of that educational journey where they can have a meaningful workforce future, really.
Right.
So building the partnerships is something that we're working on now, identifying organizations that see the potential for this. There is a gap in the STEM workforce, and the College of Science is working very hard with folks like Fairfax County, with NASA, many of our large science employers to help bring the qualified next generation workforce to play. Is that going to happen if we start early? It happens further faster. So
I think so, because one of the things that I remember reading about in Thomas Friedman's book, he said if you don't have students in higher math by the time they're in 8th grade, you have lost a potential engineering workforce or higher math or science workforce because they're not on the track early enough. And so he kind of rang the bell. And at that point, even back then when that book came out, NASA had an aging population, NASA did. And he's like, where are these future engineers and scientists going to come from if we're not pushing these kids into channels to be prepared with the right track? And so looking at elementary school, you really are looking at workforce development, like no kidding.
Right.
By getting them excited about the fact, that they might have a struggle here, but they have a huge opportunity and potential over here.
Right.
So we're looking at elementary school, middle school, high school. And again, how important are electives as the kids get older into middle and high school before they ever get to college and declare a major?
Well, I think electives give people a chance to decide what they care about. And it gives the teachers a chance. When you talk to most scientists, they will tell you at some point in their career there was an educator who saw the potential in them or who presented opportunities for them to grow. One of the big things that the College of Sciences is really focusing on are meaningful research experiences. So we have a camp, for example, called Aspiring Scientist Summer Internship Program, where a very select group of high school students, undergraduate students can actually mentor with some of our scientists in the lab and get experiences in research before they even go to college.
Wow.
And having that ability to focus or to care about the details like someone with this condition might have is a great opportunity for you to see that. Another way that I think, back to the research side of things, is so Mason is the R1 classification. I don't know how much you know about this,
Dr.
right?
Cabrera spoke about that last week, and
Okay.
he's very proud because there's only something like 140 universities with that classification, and Mason is one.
Well, 120, and we are the youngest, one of the fastest to get there in only 50 years, so long, bright future ahead. But research is really the future. You talked about collecting data.
Right.
And a lot of the research that's being done, not just in how folks with dyslexia can learn successfully, but people within the dyslexia community can learn how to do research based on the abilities they have and make major scientific impacts. So I think it's really just figuring out where young people have an interest, an ability, and then we present pathways for their future. And that to me is the biggest part of this Dyslexic Edge, where we start to look at the conference not as things that are holding you back, but things that can move you forward in science. So I'm hoping that the parents that are listening, I'm a parent of a child with special needs, and for many years I had to spend a lot of time focusing on the things my child couldn't do. Get the word out. There's a future in STEM for people in this community, and we want to nourish it. We want them to feel empowered and confident and excited about their future. And this conference is the first place where they may be able to explore things that they hadn't thought they might be able to do and learn about fields that they had never heard of before. Material science, urban science, forensic science. It's all out there for them. So we're really looking forward to it.
And what excites me about this too is this is your first annual Dyslexic Edge conference, so people can be in on the ground floor of this, but I think in succeeding years and the years to come, it will get bigger and bigger as people realize the value that you bring when you convene, when George Mason and the College of Science acts as a convener to explore these issues. So I want to thank you very much for being here, Tracy. You have been just a source of amazing information. And when we come back from this break, we're going to be talking with Shannon Duncan of Decoding Dyslexia, Virginia.
I surrender.
All right, pal. Get ready for the day, buddy.
Hey, Dad. Hey, Dad. Do we have a gun?
What's up?
Do we have a gun?
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made this vacation happen.
Double points with every purchase?
Cleverly merging promotions.
I love it.
Cross-referencing travel sites. And booking all your flights with those...
Vouchers. I got us bumped.
They were like, oh. But now they're like... Aloha. You aced this vacation. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
I tried Oxy at a couple of parties. I thought I had it under control. I didn't know it'd be this addictive. I didn't know how far I'd go to get more.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth.
What to expect when you're expecting.
Like here.
A teenager.
Today, I'm going to show you how to teen-proof your home. First step, hide the car keys. Preferably somewhere they would never look. Challenges will come up. Be ready for them. Hi, honey.
I'm ready for the... Mom,
You don't use mannequins in the mannequin challenge.
You don't have to know it all to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and joining me in this segment is Shannon Duncan of Decoding Dyslexia, Virginia. Shannon and I met 4 years ago on this show when we were talking about the legislation that Decoding Dyslexia Virginia was trying to get passed.
Yes.
And in 2015, it wasn't so successful.
Nope, it was our first try.
But I tell you what, every year since then, you have gotten legislation passed. And I just want to give kudos to everybody in your all-volunteer grassroots organization for what this amazing group of parents has been able to do in 4 years.
It's very we really appreciate that. We are all volunteer grassroots movement of parents, and in terms of legislation, as you say, we were lucky to speak with legislators and consultants and really mentors who knew what they were doing. I mean, you have a history of legislative information, and you were actually one of our mentors who sat down in a living room with us and let us know, how to maneuver.
But you've done it. You've done it. I was down there on Tuesday, and they're in the gallery, and I'm watching Justin Fairfax acknowledge Lorraine Hightower and a bunch of young people. You're actually taking students down there to show them the process and let them advocate for themselves.
It's true, which is so wonderful. That was our 6th annual Dyslexia Advocacy Day, when we brought families, because Decoding Dyslexia Virginia is not just a Northern Virginia organization.
Statewide.
We are statewide. We want to make sure that all states, all districts are educated. Ultimately, we are looking to connect parents to resources and educate really everyone, whether it be districts, whether it be our legislators, our decision makers. We want to make sure that they have the information that they need. And we're looking to do that around really 4 tenets, because Virginia is lucky enough to, at least when we started, have a definition of dyslexia. So Decoding Dyslexia is a national, and actually up in Canada, we're in 4 provinces. But our 5 tenets, make sure you get a definition of dyslexia. We're looking for early identification, as you were speaking earlier. Teacher training, we're making sure that it's evidence-based remediation, and that our kids have access to assistive technology. So that's what we look to do, and that's what our legislation is doing. Our first bill that was laid on the table initially is for teacher training, so awareness.
Right.
And now Virginia is attached to licensure, which apparently is a big deal. And so in pre-service and every 5 years, our teachers need to take a module that the VDOE, in collaboration with the VDOE, that they created a module that will really just bring dyslexia awareness. So, identifying what it looks like. And I think Tracy and Krista both said, what those symptoms look like. Because a lot of our teachers are not coming. They're not coming to the districts with the information that they need. And so that's what that bill did. And then the next was our Dyslexia Advisor bill. We're looking for an expert to be within every one of our districts. And that is something that we need our parents and our stakeholders and our teachers to make sure happens, because it's their school boards.
And there's 134 school districts in Virginia.
Yes.
And if I recall correctly, I think Fairfax County got their specialists in 2015.
We did.
Under Karen Garza.
Yes.
As I recall.
As you recall, yes.
And it was like, why'd that take so long?
I know, it felt like, So, Fairfax and Arlington and Loudoun, they are honestly moving the ball forward, and it has a lot to do with the parent voice. Because it's not just the leaders of Decoding Dyslexia, it's every voice that matters. One of our founding members has been doing this for 16, 17 years, and it really was like moving a mountain, because she's all by herself. And we have parents that come in and talk to us on social media, and they say, I tried this 20 years ago, and they let us know all the fabulous things that they attempted. But when you're just one person, it's in isolation, and it's much, much harder. So, we are looking for parents to join us. I'll tell you, this passed. Yeah,
Good
exactly.
allies.
The bill that just passed, the breaking news that just passed, was well, actually, it hasn't passed completely. It passed through the Senate.
Right. So crossover is Wednesday.
Yes,
so
yes.
it's always explained to all the people at home.
Please do.
Explain to all the people at home. So when you have a bill that originates in one chamber.
Yes,
and
the Senate.
So it's voted out. So the Senate voted it out. So crossover goes to the House.
Yes.
Now the House has to vote on the bill.
Yes.
With no amendments.
With no amendments.
So, and then once it passes the House with no amendments, then it goes to the governor's desk to be signed. That's how we make a law.
It is, which was such a learning curve for us. I mean, honestly, in 2015, we had no idea. And every year we learn a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Including the fact that when you show up and you have people who give testimony, and that's why I love the fact that you take families down there. Because legislators want to hear, first of all, from their constituents.
Yes.
They want you to explain what it is they don't understand. And that really is what it is. Like dyslexia, if you don't know or you don't have a family member with it, then it's some vague concept out there. And so advocates are the ones who move the ball through education.
It is
advocacy.
Education.
It is. These, you've got 140 legislators in the House and the Senate.
Right.
And what some of them know about dyslexia isn't very much.
It's true. It's true. And when we go, we invite families. We're interested as many folks to come. And what is so neat to watch them from the very beginning, 6 years ago, is when dyslexic children meet other dyslexic children. Because it's, wow.
Well, it's a community, right?
It is a
and
community.
people want to be with the people in their community.
It is. And then we travel, and in the first couple of years, we were just trying to spread awareness, really, honestly. So we would go to every single office, and we would, we had it all mapped out, and we just made sure that folks knew. And we had people, we made sure to have our leave behinds because we didn't have a bill to support. But we had people coming to us. We had just something to identify us, like a necklace or a badge. Yeah. And we had we had legislators in the elevator who were saying, "Oh, my daughter is dyslexic. I'm dyslexic. Come to my office. I want to talk."
See, branding and messaging, very, very important.
It was.
Anytime I go down to the State House now, people have really picked this up. The credit union has scarves, the Arc of Northern Virginia is orange.
Yes.
Everybody's kind of got their branding thing going on. But that's perfect because you're right. Legislators are learning to understand who these people are, what these groups are, and what it is they're asking for, too.
Exactly. Yeah, and so being able to go in and bring the families, we are asking, and what we do is ask parents through social media, through all of our distribution lists, is we ask parents to really tell your story.
Right.
And if your child wants to tell their story, that is even more
better.
impactful, honestly. And so even if you're not speaking for a specific bill, you're sharing your story, you're creating awareness, letting folks know, honestly, if my child had been identified earlier, they wouldn't have the struggle. If their teacher had been trained, it would have been an outcome. If our district had the proper programs or being able to use evidence-based remediation or access to assistive technology, it would have been a better outcome for our child.
Assistive technology, and we haven't talked a lot about that in the show, is that something that continues to evolve?
It is. Oh, yeah. This
is
a great.
leaps.
This generation is a great time to be dyslexic, honestly, because we want to make sure not only in the public school district and in private schools that our kids are offered and trained, and parents are trained and teachers are trained in the assistive technology, but it really just levels the playing field. Right. So we want our kids to be able to have access to speech to text if they're going to be doing some writing that they want to do, or text to speech. And then in terms of accommodations, that they would have extended time or access to audio on some of these high-stakes tests or in the classroom.
But these things are becoming so common. Everybody's got a smartphone. Everything's an app now,
It
right?
is,
There's
it
an app
is.
for that. Everybody's got an iPad or something.
Yeah, and a lot of accessibility is built into the hardware, and if not, easily downloaded. Microsoft is actually doing a really big push for dyslexics. In October, they had in all of their stores, they were having access to assistive technology that a dyslexic might use.
That's fantastic.
Which was, it was really neat.
Well, when you think, and again, the number seems to be 1 in 5 students is dyslexic, right? And that's a lot.
It's a lot.
1 in 5 is a lot.
It's a lot.
And so, but they're not necessarily being tested early. And I understand that's part of what you're really advocating for, because kindergarten.
Yeah.
And shouldn't the testing then kind of be iterative in that, because some of the students manage to adapt or pass or get by, which is why it's not caught until the wheels fall off the bus. I forget who used that term. It may have been Joan Moore until the wheels fall off the bus.
The
might have been you.
Wheels come off. My daughter's wheels came off in 3rd grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she compensated well enough. So my daughter, she was in kindergarten and first grade, and her kindergarten and first grade teacher, they were in a class together, said, Shannon, I have never had a child refuse to learn to read like your daughter.
Refuse to learn to read? What is that?
I tell you, but she adored my kids have been blessed with wonderful teachers who just don't have what they need, they don't have the tools that they need. But no, our kids do need to be identified early, and that's the bill that we're talking about right now.
Right.
It's adding a component. Virginia is one of very few states that had a mandatory screener required. So this is the K through 3, is that it's a literacy screen for our children. And they currently use a literacy screen that could be improved. And by improvement is our request is to add something. It's called the RAN, and it's a component of reading, and it is, in fact, a very important early indicator for potential reading failure. So it's a screener. We just need our kids to be identified because dyslexia occurs on a continuum. So some kids may need just a bit of remediation. I heard Krista saying early, get them early, and it's possible that you could give a kindergartner or first grader a little bit of remediation that's just going to set them on their way. But then there's going to be these other kids whose deficits are a bit deeper, and they're going to need more intensive instruction.
You know, and it seems like that's such a small thing, like you're adding the RAN to something that already exists in a state that was smart enough to put it in place anyway. But still, you're down there asking the legislators to actually do this. So
we are. We want to improve it. We want to. I mean, we know we're not capturing kids. Arlington County actually just added the RAN last year as a pilot program, and it's huge success. They're finding those kids. Yeah, it's super exciting.
So on your behalf, I'm just going to say that everybody watching tonight should care about this issue and follow the bills. You are on Facebook.
We are.
You have your own blog on WordPress.
We do.
You're a DDVA13 on Twitter.
We are. Thank you.
People who want to be allies, and your child doesn't have to be dyslexic for you to understand that it's a better educational experience for all the children in the classroom when all the children have the opportunity to succeed.
Yes.
Everyone needs to care about this.
Everyone does need to care about that.
Do you happen to remember the bill number for this?
Yes, absolutely.
What is the bill?
1718.
Okay, SB 1718 is about to go to crossover.
It is.
It's going to go to the House, and so everybody needs to be following this bill number to see how it progresses in its journey, because it needs to come out of the House.
Absolutely.
So people call your legislators, right?
Yes, exactly. And that's, join us on Facebook. See us on Facebook, because that's where we're sending all of our action alerts. To make sure that we're connecting with as many folks as we possibly can, because that's what we need now. So right now, we need to sound the alarm, every single Virginian. Exactly.
Ding, 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 ding.
Exactly. We're looking for every single Virginian
to contact their legislator in the House of Delegates.
Yes.
So when we come back after this break, thank you so much for being here, Shannon. When we come back from this break, we're going to bring back Krista Gauthier, who is the founder of Sliding Doors. We're going to be talking about why we should all be interested in the subject of how we educate children with dyslexia better than we are. So join us.
This is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help, and slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies.
Selfie, nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's split a ride home.
Being a dad is an adventure full of special moments.
A cruise?
Surprise! Unexpected moments.
I got this.
And even awkward moments.
Okay, Dad, thank you.
But every moment you spend with your kids, even the smallest moments, can make the biggest impact on your child's life. So take a moment to be a dad today.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend.
my human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Catherine Reed. Tonight we are talking about the Dyslexic Edge conference that's taking place at George Mason University on March the 23rd. Joining me in this segment is Krista Gauthier, who is the founder and the executive director of Sliding Doors. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks again.
So we just talked to Shannon Duncan from the Decoding Dyslexia Virginia. They are also part. I was so excited to talk to her about our legislative agenda. I didn't talk about what their role is going to be in this conference.
So, one of the things that's been really great since we founded this organization 2.5 years ago is to see just all these wonderful serendipitous partnerships that form. And Decoding Dyslexia has been a huge supporter of Sliding Doors from the very beginning. And, it's funny because Shannon and I were having a conversation back in September, and I said, hey, I'm doing this event with George Mason. I just want to tell you about it. And she was like, oh my gosh, we've been talking about doing some kind of event. So it just became this amazingly natural fit for them to join and be an equal partner in this endeavor. And Decoding Dyslexia has just been phenomenal in terms of they have brought in so many just fantastic speakers, from Tom West to Microsoft Assistive Technology to all these wonderful people who are going to talk with parents and companies and educators about dyslexia.
Well, so we should mention that you're like 1.5 years into your program, which has been phenomenally successful, which says something about the pent-up demand for what it is you offer.
Right. So the last time we talked, when I was here, I said, I'm here as the spokesperson, but really, this speaks to, like you said, the need and the demand for it. And yes, we just had our first graduation back in December. It was a very exciting day for our 4 first graduates of our 2-year program. And I always say that what has gotten us to this point has been the partnerships and the support, and not just the demand, but people who see how important this issue is and come on board. We think about some of the people who are not only supporting this conference, but who have supported us from the very beginning. We have a company, OG Systems, who's been a big sponsor of ours, will continue to sponsor and support this event. We've had partners in education from National Geospatial Intelligence, and we've had another organization by the name of RoboNation that is actually going to be the foundation for the camp we're going to do this summer with underwater robotics called Sea Perch. So we're really excited.
And so I'm assuming that the doors are still open for anybody else who might want to partner either as sponsors through this conference or through this conference find programs like yours where, especially if they've got employees. You were talking about the Carter Rock Naval Lab and the man who came out and spoke to these kids and said, I'm dyslexic too.
Right.
There has to be volunteer opportunities, I would imagine, at some of these companies, these engineering firms, especially in this area. They probably have employees who would make great mentors.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we actually, I was talking with the director of communications of OG Systems just today, and I asked her, I said, what drew you to Sliding Doors? And she said, it wasn't just that this was a great organization and we're out in the community. It was that career development piece, right? That you can support a number of charities, but this is something that they believe it's part of their mission, right? And I think in this area especially, there are so many companies who are looking to really develop the workforce, right? That we invite not only their employees to come speak, but to help out at our after-school program, to come to this conference and help out. There's just many opportunities to help.
Right, and it is workforce development in that, if you ask the average kindergartner what they want to be when they grow up, a fireman, a trashman, a policeman, because their worldview is so limited about what they think, a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker. And some of these high level jobs in sciences, for instance, are not something they would normally see at a young age unless you either bring people in or you take them someplace else.
Right. Absolutely. And one of the things too, though, that, and I think a lot of employers are starting to think of it this way as well, is that when we talk to our students about like, what do you want to be kind of thing, we actually don't ask, what do you want to be? We say, what problem do you want to solve?
Oh, that's so much better.
Well, because the job they will have doesn't exist yet.
That's right. It hasn't been invented.
Right.
The industry, the job title has not been invented.
Right. So one of the things in bringing in like George Mason into this, and why that is so important is they've done amazing things with being innovative in the type of majors they offer and things, and they can show these kids all these really interesting ways that they can engage in their interests and their passions.
Yeah, I noticed that on the website for the College of Science. They've got majors that you normally see, but they've also got minor programs, and they kind of encourage people to pick a minor program to enhance whatever they're majoring in, because science is changing very quickly.
Right.
You know, there are things, when you think about the autonomous vehicles. Will that be a thing? Will it not be a thing? But who will be the people who do that when it comes to transportation? Transportation engineering. You know, it's I don't think, you know, a kid might say, I want to be a bus driver, but they're not going, I want to be a transportation engineer.
Well, that's correct. And what's funny is, and one of the things that draws me to different partners in this endeavor too, is the concept that you have to think of STEM, right, as almost a meta discipline, right? It's not only just those science, technology, engineering, math. It's actually a way of thinking, right? Because again, those jobs don't exist yet. And it's one of the things that even drew me to RoboNation. I actually was the manager of their Sea Perch program. And what was so amazing about what they do with that program is it's not just about teaching underwater ROV robotics, right? It's also about teaching these kids how to think creatively, how to solve problems. And so we're really excited to be able to bring that to our students.
Well, you know, and that's why I talked a little bit with Tracy about maker spaces and creating places where kids can put their hands on manipulative things to see how they work. In other words, don't just teach them the principles of physics in high school. Let them discover the principles of physics but I don't know how much that is going to become a part of curriculum inside the instructional time, or whether programs like yours, which end up being an after-school program, or your Science Saturdays, this ends up being an enrichment program.
Right. You know, and I, you know, schools are, and that's actually why this conference becomes an important event, because I think what we need to help teachers understand is that these kind of teaching practices, this hands-on experiential learning, is not a divergence from national standards, right?
Right.
And so we're actually even bringing in speakers for the conference that will show these teachers how when you teach hands-on STEM, you're actually meeting, say, these 6 standards, right? And making them understand that, you know, it's actually, you reach not only dyslexic learners, but you reach everybody when you do this kind of learning, and in doing so you are not taking time away from
instructional time. You're just being more creative and how you're presenting the same material in a far more interesting way. And listen, learning things could always be more interesting.
I mean, if I actually, when I think of some of the activities we do with our students, oh my gosh, like I think I would have been an engineer if
you'd done something interesting, if you thought like it was going to be fun and not just math problems, right? Yeah,
exactly.
I always never put myself in an engineer category either.
Right.
Anyway, we've got a question from Andy, and sent us a message and said, how long is the conference, and where can he find more information about the conference?
Sure. So it's a one-day-long conference. It's actually split into morning and afternoon. In the morning is more of the conference. That's where we're going to have our speakers come in. In the afternoon is a STEM festival for families. So we're bringing in people that are going to run booths that have all different hands-on STEM activities, and we're going to be running engineering challenges throughout the day.
Oh, so cool.
The Children's Science Center is going to be there doing a stage show. We just have some great things. So it's a day long. The website is the DyslexicEdge.org. And that's where you can find out more information and to register.
Yeah. Yep. And so I'm assuming too that you're still open to partnerships. So there might be
100%.
people, corporate sponsors, or people who want to participate, exhibit, have a booth, something like that. You know, this area is so rich with big engineering companies, but also smaller ones. There's a lot of contractors who support. So you would think this area, I just think people don't, A, know about your program, B, this is the first time we've ever had this conference, so they don't know about the conference. But there's so many opportunities to engage with a potential workforce that's like 6 years old right now.
Right. And that's one of the things, I'll talk to different people who will talk about, programs they have, whether it be in high school or universities. And they claim they're filling the pipeline. And I said, well, no, actually you're recruiting at that point.
You are recruiting.
If you want to fill, you need to start in kindergarten, right? Because that's before they I think kids are born with a natural inclination to science in general, asking questions and being curious about their world. And I think if you capture that at a young age, especially among people with dyslexia who tend to gravitate anyway to those interests, I think you're really onto something.
I do too. And so I'm hoping that built into this conference is plans for next year's conference. So
yes, absolutely.
So that you're telling them, everybody who comes is like, and next year's conference will include. Boom.
Well, we consider this to be the kickoff to a much larger initiative and vision. And, the conference is a first step. And one of the things I mentioned that every good idea starts with a whiteboarding session. When Tracy and I started our conversations, a big part of that was where do we go after the conference? So not only will we continue the conference on a yearly basis, but we're talking about the summer camps and eventually spawning into some kind of teaching academy where we can bring teachers in and teach them the best practices.
What a great idea.
So,
that teacher piece, and they do professional development, but professional development is sort of open-ended. It's not necessarily a module about something specific like this, although we hope that it's going to be your professional development is a module on understanding dyslexia, how to screen and how to remediate. And 2, evidence-based programs, because at this juncture in time, there's been enough research and there's been enough experience in remediating that you know which programs work.
Right, we do, for sure. And one of the things that we want to stress is like in certainly the foundation of our program, right, is that you need to take that holistic approach where that remediation piece is critical. And we know we have evidence, for what works in that piece. But that building of the confidence, that reaching their full potential, that showing them their strengths is equally important, And what's funny about our program is we divide the time equally between the remediation and the enrichment. And what we see is the kids don't come to our program and say, well, I hate the reading, but I love the STEM. They say, we love sliding doors. And so to see them connect something that they struggle with something they love to do is just a powerful, powerful moment.
Well, it is, because now they're making a connection between this is something fun and interesting and that I love, and I'm going to get better at this by figuring out how to overcome this thing that's a struggle.
Right.
I just think in their minds that has to be a much more positive way of doing remediation, pairing it. I mean, I think your idea with the sliding doors is absolutely brilliant. And of course, the whole concept that you're sliding doors, which I didn't understand at first, you slide doors from one place and there's just another way in.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Krista.
Thank you.
I am looking forward to this conference. I hope that people will get engaged. They can find information on your website. They can find information on the conference website. This is the beginning of something much larger. I love the fact that you and Tracy and Decoding Dyslexia Virginia have a follow-up plan.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Thank you so much.
No, this has been wonderful, and I hope for everybody at home, you have a lot more information about what we're doing here in Fairfax, what we're doing here in Virginia to meet the needs of dyslexic families.